So this is Joseph's Egyptian name. And Pharaoh called Joseph's name Zaphnat Ba'anea, and he gave him to wife Asenath, the daughter of Potiphera, priest of On, and Joseph went out all over the land of Egypt. The correct pronunciation of Joseph's Egyptian name would be Zatannath Ba'anea. To show you how I know why we pronounce his name this way, I'm going to show you who he was according to Egyptian records. Let's read up slightly in the chapter in verses 42 and 43. And Pharaoh took off his ring from his hand, and put it upon Joseph's hand, and arrayed him in vestures of fine linen, and put a gold chain about his neck. And he made him to ride in the second chariot which he had. And they cried before him, bowed a knee. And he made him ruler over all the land of Egypt. The second in command in Egypt would be the Vizier or Jat. This is the equivalent to a modern day prime minister. So knowing this, we should be able to look through the Egyptian list of viziers for a Pa'anea. We can leave the Zatannath part off for now for a reason that I will explain later. So we'll start with the second part of his name first. Pa'anea translates into English as he lives or he life. The word for life in Egyptian, as you may already know, is Ankh, as you have probably seen this symbol in Egyptian images countless times. So the way the Israelites would have pronounced the word Ankh would be to say Anea. So we need to find a vizier with Ankh in his name. If we start in the New Kingdom, which is when conventional historians tell you Joseph would have theoretically lived, we do not find any vizier whose name contains an Ankh. We do have a couple of viziers in the third intermediate period, but nobody is suggesting that Joseph lived in Egypt during the 22nd or 23rd dynasty, so we can ignore those. Now, if you have seen my previous videos on Israelite history, you will know that I believe the Israelites left Egypt at the end of the 13th dynasty. So we need to look for a vizier who was in office towards the end of the 12th dynasty, and sure enough, looking at the list, we find the vizier Ankhu. Just as a side note, if you were to look at the Wikipedia entry for Ankhu, it lists him as being a 13th dynasty vizier, serving the pharaoh Kenjer or Kenzer, who was the 21st pharaoh of the 13th dynasty. This is incorrect, as Ankhu was attested in the reign of Sobek-Hotep I, who was the first ruler of the 13th dynasty, and before this, we have a gap in the list of viziers, so we do have room to push the start of Ankhu's term in office back into the 12th dynasty. This confusion with Kenzer may have come about because of two stelae from the funerary chapel of the priest Amenemhat. We know Amenemhat had taken instruction from Ankhu to restore the 12th dynasty temple of Osiris at Abydos. Well, on one of the stelae from his funerary chapel, there was a cartouche for Kenzer, which is probably how they came to the conclusion that Ankhu and Kenzer were contemporary. However, this cartouche was not in the style of the rest of the writing on the stelae and was most probably added later. Also, as funerary stelae would have been carved at the end of Amenemhat's life, this could potentially have been decades after Ankhu gave him instructions to restore the temple. I just wanted to point this out as the Wikipedia entry does seem to have a few discrepancies I discovered while planning this video. So Ankhu would have most likely served under Amenemhat III, who was co-regent with his father Senuseret III at the end of the 12th dynasty. This is interesting as there was something that happened during his reign that solidifies to me that Ankhu is the Pa'anea or Joseph of the Bible. During Amenemhat's reign, the Egyptians would use the quayside walls to measure the Nile flood levels each year, marking the peak of the flood. Higher water levels would determine higher taxes, as the higher flood levels would create a greater area for agricultural production once the floods dispersed. Well, during his reign, they began to record a rise in the flood levels so that for a period of 7 years, the flood levels were 16 meters above sea level. During this time, crop production would have almost doubled in Egypt. But then in Amenemhat's 20th year, flood levels rose further to 21 meters above sea level. At this level, the flood waters would not have cleared in time in order for them to be able to plant crops for the year, which would have created a famine. I bring all of this up because this is the exact scenario that Joseph said would occur after he interpreted the dreams of Pharaoh on his release from jail. I'll just get that in Genesis chapter 41, verses 29 to 31. Behold, there come 7 years of great plenty throughout all the land of Egypt, and there shall arise after them 7 years of famine, and all the plenty shall be forgotten in the land of Egypt, and the famine shall consume the land. And the plenty shall not be known in the land by reason of that famine following, for it shall be very grievous. We can confirm that this famine we read about would be caused by flooding and not by a drought by reading Genesis chapter 45 and verse 6. For these 2 years have the famine been in the land, and yet there are 5 years in the which there shall neither be earing nor harvest. Ploughing, which is earing, wouldn't have been prevented by a drought. You can plough dry land, yet a waterlogged field would have prevented them from ploughing. So during the reign of Amenemhat III, we can establish Egypt went through 7 years of plenty and 7 years of famine, and that the Vizier that was in charge at the time was named Paanea. Is it just a coincidence that the Bible tells us this was the story of Joseph, even given his Egyptian name? Now I want to get back to the first part of Joseph's Egyptian name, Zatannath, written in the Bible of Zapnath. Scholars have come to the conclusion that this was the Israelites' attempt at translating the Egyptian phrase Djejueneth, meaning he who is called. Think of it as a surname, in the same way that slave owners gave their slaves their own family name. This prenomen was used by the Egyptians when giving their slaves a new name, as would be the case when Joseph was renamed Paanea. I've mentioned in past videos dealing with Egyptian names that these are placeholders. They do not represent true vowel sounds or even their correct position within a word. This is why we have Zatannath instead of Zetaneth. Finally, the J in Jeju is really a Z sound. We know this as we can read the name of the builder of the step pyramid at Saqqara as being King Josia, whereas we have older texts referring to him as Zoser. Putting all of this together, the full name of the 12th dynasty Vizier Ankhu was Zatannath Paanea, meaning he who is called, he lives. This lets us know that Joseph of the Bible interpreted the dreams of Amenemhat III to allow them to prepare for the years of famine due to come because of the flooding of the Nile. We know exactly how this Vizier handled the increase in flood levels in Egypt, and I will create videos in the future to show this, but in this video I wanted to focus on how to pronounce his name and how to identify him in Egyptian history. I use similar methods in other videos on this channel to identify other Egyptians mentioned in the Bible that you can watch in this playlist. Otherwise, I'll have more to show you in my next video. Please subscribe and like the videos. All praises to the Most High.